Welcome everyone today to top 3 reasons why you're scared of roll swaps. We're talking about that scary moment when you have to switch from one server to another and you've been using replication software or hardware, and talking about some of the anxieties with that and maybe some things you can do to make your life better and make yourself prepared. This webinar is being recorded, and thank you for attending. You will get handouts afterwards, and there will be recording if you want to listen to it. That's kind of it for the logistics. We also got a couple polling questions too along the way that you can listen to. So let's get over here to the presenters today. Myself, Tom Huntington, IBM Power Champion for the last 5 years and person responsible for the IBM Marketplace survey. Actually, I do one on the AIX side too, AIX side, and joined here by my colleague, Chuck Lazinski. Chuck, how are you today?
Hey, doing really good. Thanks, Tom. You know, we've been working together now for 22 years at Help Systems. And my career has mostly been around IBMI and around the Help System solutions. So really enjoy talking to our various clients out there.
And you're our local Q user president too for the
Yeah,
Minneapolis area, and
local user group vice president.
vice president.
Salute when you say that. And
Yes.
check us out at quser.org if you're looking for a user group. We've got an online presence and a lot of good speakers already lined up for starting in September.
And you'll take users from any part of the world, right?
Anywhere in the world. We've got members from all over the place. It's
You
really a
just
lot of fun.
need to understand Northern English and then you can be a member. What's our agenda today, Chuck?
Well, okay, so first we're going to talk about why role swap. All right, we're going to talk obviously about HA, but why the role swap? Top 3 reasons why you might be afraid of doing a role swap. All right, it's important, but why are you afraid? And then we're actually going to look at a pre-recorded robot HA role swap. Very, very cool, Tom.
Awesome. But before we get started, we got a polling question, Chuck, and it's all about you.
All right, here we go. The question is, have you had a disaster that's taken out part of your business in one form or another? For instance, maybe multiple disk drive failures in a RAID system, maybe a power supply issue and you lost connectivity. What sort of single point of failure, maybe that was exposed by some sort of disaster? Yes or no? It's a simple question. Tom, have you been down this road at all?
Well, I've been with Help Systems now for 33 years. Prior to that, I used to have disasters pretty much every other month because back then the disk drive units failed after 2.5 to 3 years, and I was always recovering a System 38. But back then it was tape. It was all tape, and I actually did journaling back then too, though, and
Right.
restored my systems by applying journal changes manually. Fun stuff.
Okay, Tom.
What's our results here?
About 25% of our listeners have gone down this path. What a scary thing.
Yeah.
What a scary thing. So that's why we're here to talk about HA and role swaps and everything that goes with that. All right. So let's start with why a role swap, Tom. And we're going to start with our 2021 Marketplace survey, and I'm going to turn my camera off, save the world some bandwidth. So we're going to start out with our 2021 Marketplace survey and top IT concerns from all those folks that replied to our survey. And you guys maybe have seen this before in some of our other webinars. We like to present it because it's insight into what other IBMI shops are concerned with. Security being number one, and you can see we've got both 2020 and 2021 results here, 2020 in orange, 2021 in red. And number 2 on the list is high availability disaster recovery. I mean, I couldn't sleep at night unless I knew that my systems were properly configured for HA and DR. A lot of different reasons for doing HA, but certainly that's a top concern. Now, second question that we had in our Marketplace survey is, what kind of system do you have in place to recover from a disaster? And this was a multiple choice answer. So number 1 was recovery from high availability and recovery recovery from tape, no doubt. Some of our respondents selected both of those. Also, VTL was well represented. Many of our clients are using VTL to do their point in time backups too. We do have some folks doing cloud backups, and I really can't believe that we've got people out there with a non-response. Maybe that was kind of an aberration, but that scares me a little bit. Now, what type of high availability technology do you use? Vast majority use software-based remote journaling replication, but a pretty good representation, Tom, of hardware-based replication as well. But not everybody uses an HA solution, do they, Tom?
They don't. They're still, and our survey might gather the more active users in the market to begin with, so they have a tendency to be more up on technology. So we probably see a higher number of people with HA than what really is happening across the IBMI platform. It's a lot less than this, I'm sure, in some sites where they haven't paid attention to IBMI as much. So the other thing that we look at are factors for downtime. And I like to say, per help systems team, we say that natural disasters are probably the biggest thing that people are planning for. It seems like, hurricanes and fires, either they've gotten more hyped or more often these days. And I think planning for those is certainly important. Probably the biggest thing that you're really planning for is you don't want to have business disruption. And also human factors come into play. Incomplete backups. We hear horror stories of customers who don't have a good backup. Or I recently had a case where the customer was thinking they told us they were on a test system, and then they said, oh, by the way, um, where's all of our archived data that was on that server? Things like that. So making sure that your backups are complete. Cybersecurity is a big concern, right? If you have ransomware, can you get ransomware on an IBMI? Of course you can these days, unfortunately. And if you have that happen to you, how do you get back your server? You have to go to a backup, or you have to have a version of that data that it has not been corrupted. So of course, and then we look at the ITIC report, which is a great report if you're looking for ways of cost justifying having HA technology and communicating that to your management team. Over there, they talk about human error, security errors, software bugs, inadequate hardware, improper configurations as factors that cause downtime. And then, of course, today's world, how much downtime can you afford? Um, that number has gone up and up according to the study from ITIC, and that in today's sense, it's really like 5 minutes of downtime a year is what most organizations can afford to lose before it starts costing them hundreds of thousands, millions of dollars in business. And we've seen enough with ransomware and other things that have happened, or hurricanes, and today. The nice thing is you're on a platform already that is highly available, knock on wood, but adding an HA is even going to make it that much more reliable. So why roll swaps? Of course, doing a roll swap, we often think of it as primarily a test, but in that sense, when we think about backups, I often talk with Deb Sagan a lot about BRMS and those kinds of things, and we both agree backup is not a backup unless you've actually tested it, and the same is true for HA. If you never test your HA solution, do you really have a HA DR solution? So I'm going to talk HA, DR, and they're kind of loosely combined. There's differences there, but at the end of the day, what your goal is you're having the ability to have your business continuity within minutes or within an hour of having a failure. So the reason we test is we want predictability, we want confidence in the process, and really you can't be that next business in the news. Nobody wants to be the meat packing company that was recently in the news paying $11 million for ransomware and other things. And the other thing about it is we happen to be on a platform called IBMI, and guess what? There's a lot of customers that are doing this on a regular basis. So you too can be successful in doing roll swaps. Another aspect of this is we can't forget about regulations. We all have regulations out there that we have to adhere to, and some of the requirements, especially in financial banking and different parts of the world, is you have to have an HADR type solution. or you're in violation of your regulations that you have to adhere to. So again, we get into why should we test? I think it's always better for you as an IT department to work out the kinks in your business continuity before the disaster strikes. You've invested in all this hardware, you've invested in better communications, you bought HADR software. Now you just need to do the test to make sure that this is successful. And some things that you need to think about is making sure you have this in your budget. And really, if you're the person responsible, your career is really based on your success in being able to restore your system. So don't let your end users do your testing for you. In your case, your end users might be your customers. You need to be planning for this yourself. All right, so that's the reason why. Chuck, now we're going to get into top 3 reasons why you're scared of doing role swaps in our mind, and you might have other ones, and you may disagree with Tom has to say in this area, but I see top 3 reasons why most people are scared of role swaps is there's the fear that the data is not current over on the target side, or there's the fear that we don't trust the setup, or we have no experience, right? We have never done this before. So how are we going to get through this when we've never done it before? Okay, so let's take a look at each of these 3 reasons. The data is not current, right? So in this case, what you're concerned about is transfer lag time, apply lag time, possibly of your data. So maybe your network is too slow for what you're trying to do. You have too many transactions. You need to look at that transfer speed. Apply lag time is generally going to be related to the fact that maybe you're shutting off your replication for some reason. I do know and run into a lot of customers that shut replication off while they're doing backups. Um, you know, we could go through a lot of arguments on that. If you happen to have a failure during the backup, you could lose 2 hours of time. My preference is that you leave replication running all the time and do your backups while it's active. How do I know I have my data? So part of the issue is, what do you have at your disposal within your department to be able to look at your data to understand whether or not it's current, right? I recommend you have some SQL or some way of going into your business application, pulling it up on one side, pulling it up on the other side, and being able to see where data is at the level that it needs to be, because ultimately it's about your application data that you're most concerned about. People are worried about network outages. I hear that less and less. I think the networks of the world have gotten better, even during this pandemic and people working from home. The networks have been able to keep up for the most part. And then the other question is, will the software pick up after the outage? Really, if we have an outage, how quickly can we do the role swap and get over there and start running our business? We don't trust the setup. And this really, you could apply this to backups too, right? Are you backing up what you should be backing up? Do you audit what you're backing up? Do you audit what you're replicating? The person who implemented the software maybe is no longer there. Have you spent the time to retrain your staff or to at least familiarize yourself with how the software is set up? Is it too complicated? If the product's too complicated, then maybe you're in the wrong product. It shouldn't be that complicated to set up. It shouldn't be that complicated to understand your setup for doing replication. The other aspect of it is maybe you don't have the rules that you are comfortable with in the product. So you have to review these things. So for me, it's all about data. What data is changing? What libraries is it in? What IFS directories is it in? Those are the things that I'm tackling when it comes to backup and high availability. And so you have that constant fear that you're missing something because you're not spending the time periodically looking at what's in the replication software. And actually this, goes to hardware replication too. If you're using independent auxiliary storage pools, is the data that you need to be replicated in those independent auxiliary storage pools? Because things change, right? I set the software up, I set the hardware up 5 years ago, and nobody's looked at the or audited what's being replicated, what's being backed up, et cetera, et cetera. Then we get to no experience. We've never done this before, right? Well, if you've never done this before, then you need to have somebody help you through the role swap to get you started, to get you through that. Have a consultant work with you. There's many different people out in the industry. Our team, of course, from a service perspective, can help you out. Um, and the other aspect of too is maybe the person who set it up or the supplier that set it up back in the day is no longer in business, or they've been acquired and they're no longer a strategic product. Those are things that you have to factor in. And then another aspect of this is that your management team that spent the money on buying the high availability technology won't give you the budget or the annual budget to actually do a roll swap. And that's an issue in itself too, right? So working through that and justifying and putting the roll swap process really into your annual budget is a good idea. So some tips for a successful roll swap is really you need to develop a step-by-step plan. Have a checklist. Now, if that checklist is pages and pages and pages long, then you need to rethink it. You might want to say, okay, some of these things we need to put into a script. We need to automate it. I mean, I know we have customers that are really large using Robot Schedule, for instance, to run all their scripts that they need in order to shut down their business application. It's more about shutting down and starting up their business application than it is actually doing the roll swap itself. So then auditing or verifying your replication software and or hardware is working. You need to do that periodically. Develop those automation scripts for your applications. Build in automation around your shutdowns and startups. You don't want to be in the middle of a crisis and having to go through a checklist that's got all these manual steps in it. Um, it's 2021. We should have things as as automated as they need to be. So talk to other customers that have your application. Are there other people that are using the same CRM, ERP that have had success with HA? There's a lot of avenues. There's LinkedIn and other ways that you can connect up, talk to your vendors, see if you have other customers that are using a similar technology. And remember that when you do a role swap, it is a test. And the first time you do it, you're probably going to have some problems, but you have to plan for that. You have to communicate that to your team and to your management that this is a test the first time we do it. But then once you get through the first, the second, the third, they all go much easier because you've figured out some things that maybe you weren't aware of. There might be some things that you have to configure in your network properly. And so then ease into your first roll swap. Most of the technology out there has a concept of a test while active roll swap and or a simulated roll swap. And then finally, my major tip here is to be successful, budget for the roll swap. Now, some other things you should consider then is services. Hire an expert for the roll swap. If you don't know how to do it, learn from them. They'll walk you through it, get you comfortable with it. And in my mind, there's a lot of different independent consultants out there too that you can find that have done HA technology. Talk to your business partner, your VAR. They probably have somebody on their team too. They are familiar with different technologies and consider a managed service provider to do it for you. They often will set up your site for you, help you test, host your HA environment. One of the first things that we see with cloud technology today in IBM Power is that people are looking to cloud to have their HA partition or system in the cloud. To me, the biggest concern there is when you do your role swap, could you run your business there? Have you sized that properly? So. All right, as Chuck promised, we would have a demonstration of a role swap. And to do that, instead of waiting for some of the things that happen, we pre-recorded this for you. So let me go ahead and Chuck, I will ask you to verify when you're seeing
Yep.
that on your end. Okay.
Okay.
For me, everything I do in technology starts with a little bit of reading. And first of all, our team has put together this great Robot HA Roll Swap user guide. The guide is not very long. It's only about 24 pages long and nice little table of contents to get you started. And of course, with the appendix, 24 pages long. Now, our team also recommends that if you're going to be doing a role swap, certainly engage our services if you need help. The services team will um, watch over you and guide you through the process. However, if you do know what you're doing and you're happy with the process that you have, It's always a good idea just to warn our technical support team too, because more than likely you'll be doing this on the weekend, and giving them the heads up is a great idea. So before you do your roll swap, we have some steps for preparing for the roll swap. And these are pretty straightly laid out for you. Step one, two, three. These are things that you want to do before the roll swap just to make sure that the system is ready to go. Now, when it comes to roll swaps itself, we have a swap while active process. Leaves your production system up, but then runs the roll swap as a kind of a simulated over on the target side. But today, what we're going to be doing is a full roll swap. So with this, again, there's some steps. One of the things you need to do. So then again, with the full roll swap, there are steps one, two, three, four, and so forth that will take you through. And so let's go over to actually doing the roll swap. Okay, now that we've gone through the user guide and we prepared ourselves with the steps for doing the roll stop, we're ready. But what we need to do is make sure that our system and our application are ready. So I've already shut down my main application over here, Robot Schedule, because that's what we're replicating from one system to another, along with a few other libraries. But I'm going to go on the RBO menu now, and first thing I'm going to do is on the production side, I'm going to go through option 11 here and review and see how current all of our sync points are. We're a little out of time here, so I'm just going to run my sync process against all these libraries just to make sure we're current. Good. So moving on to the next set of attributes, our um, IFS area. So I'm going to sync that also with option 8. And our group of libraries, I guess we could sync that too. It's a little bit behind, so we'll do that. Press F11, all of our IFS configuration, authorization list, private authorities, user profiles, we'll take and sync those too. Okay, so we're good there. Now, the other thing we have going on, Robot HA Insight is being used to monitor through dashboards. So we need to end TCP. We'll just do T asterisk. Okay, so we're ending the HTTP server that has Insight. Okay, now we're happy with the systems being all set, ready to do our roll swap. So what I'm going to do is on both the source side and on the target side, the backup system, I'm going to sign off, put those workstations away, and now we're going to sign back onto our consoles that we have up in the background. All right, so here's our two consoles. We're going to go over to the, as I said, the production side first. So here we are on Able production, and over on Elba, we are the backup right there. See the backup? All right, cool. So let's do our roll swap. We're going to run it for sure, and we're going to hit enter. So what that's going to do is going to end our sync jobs. We got 18 of those to end, and we have 8 sync jobs now to complete. We're down to 6. Now we're removing the journal linkages from all the journal definitions. Got to stop that between the two systems. Contacting that backup server. Saving all of our production environments for Robot HA settings so that they get over to the backup system. Okay, we're going to send the network attributes over there. Importing the Robot HA backup machine settings. So we're taking those values that were over on backup on Elba over to this system. Setting our manual sync point so we have a starting point. Disabling constraints and triggers. And voila, we're done with Able. It is now in backup mode. All right, so then what we need to do is go over to Elba, which is still also backup, and we want to make it production. And so we take option 10 over here. We're going to again run this interactively, and yes, we do want a roll swap, so that's going to start. Again, over here, we have to end our sync jobs over on the old backup system before it becomes production. Still got 2 sync jobs we're waiting on. And usually the backup side goes a little faster. Now keep in mind too, if for some reason your production side went away, you could simply go over to your backup system and run this process I'm running right now and switch it to become production so that you can let your end users on here. I mean, not everything we're doing is a planned roll swap. If you do have a disaster, you'd want to do that. And then of course, now we're saving our backup environments for Robot HA settings, so we want to save those. Importing the Robot HA production settings, I'll show you that in a bit. Setting our manual sync points, and then we should be set with our backup system now becoming production. There we are. Elba is now production. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sign off of both of these lower sessions that are on the console, just to release any locks that they may have on things. And then we'll go back to our top screens and we'll look at where we're at. So let's sign on here. Okay, we'll do RBO, look at Robot HA. We'll see that it's inactive, but before, what we want to do is we want to look at our job queues. We do have some job queues that were put on hold, so we'll do that on both sides. Release that one and do the same over here. Okay, good, good. And now we can start our TCP/IP server on the new production system, and we should do the same over on the new backup system. So we'll start TCP/IP server. Once we've done that, then we can start our sync process. Okay, those are both running. Now if I go and look here, we'll see that we now have all those rules that were in our production side before are now over on Elba versus Able. So that's really it. We've completed our role swap. Now we're going to want to role swap back, of course. So thank you for watching. All right, so that's the process for doing a role swap. Let's get back on with the PowerPoint here, Chuck, and kind of wrap things up. I know you have another polling question for the group here and how help systems can help you if you want to open that up. And remember, you might be muted.
Yep. Polling questions open. The options are you'd like to start a free trial of Robot HA. Maybe you'd like to schedule a Help Systems Tech Update where we talk about the Help Systems products you own and the technologies and what's new and how we can help you, and maybe just a conversation around HA and backup and restore. Please make your selection. You can select one or all if you'd like.
Chuck, are you seeing any questions out there?
Let me check. Okay. One question here is related to converting from other tools. So one of the questions is, have you ever converted a customer from Itera?
Okay. And the answer is yes, we have. Typically, Itera is a really good fit for Robot HA, those customers out there, because we can bring those rules over. We have some utilities on IBMI that we run when we install our product to go out and find all the libraries that should be replicated, along with we look at what you already are doing. And so in a lot of cases with an existing product, we can take over right where their journals left off too, so we can save you some time in getting started. But yeah, definitely an opportunity for us if somebody's using that technology.
Yeah. Okay. Another question is related to customizing the role swap. How can we go about customizing the role swap process using Robot HA?
Yeah, I guess one of the things I didn't show in the demo is that there is on the source side and the target side, there's some source code that we ship with the product that executes the process of doing the role swap. So you can put your rules inside of there, or you can have a separate script that you would run or automate through scheduling again to run the processes. Those do come with the product. Really kind of cool because on the target side, we read through that script and we put in, we take care of triggers, we take care of network attributes, remote database entries, directory entries, job scheduling entries, and all those things are automatically put in place. That's what that script does. So if you do modify it, be careful. We don't want you to take some of those things out that you might want to have in place. So well, Chuck, I think we're really right at the end of the session today. It's meant to be just a 30-minute session. So I want to thank you for joining and helping steer me through having a successful role swap. And we want to thank you for listening and make it a wonderful day.